over the legality and the formalities of next week's impeachment trial.
So the question for the country and the Democratic Party is, how much pain are you going to put us through until we get to a verdict of acquittal? If you want to call one witness, my friend, to my Democratic colleagues, you're going to have a lot of witnesses. You're going to stop the trial for weeks and months.
Let's discuss the latest developments on Capitol Hill with Republican Congressman from Ohio, Jim Jordan. Congressman, welcome back.
Good to be with you, Shannon.
Sounds like people across the political spectrum admit and concede that this is going to ultimately be an acquittal for the former president, if it even gets off to a start. So, I can only assume that Democrats are using this to make political points, but often the mainstream media, helps them out in that fact. And we know that they often win the war of public opinion. So what do you make of this?
Well, they're doing it because it's an obsession with him. Remember, they tried to remove President Trump from office before he got there. Now they're trying to remove him after he's already left. It was at 19 minutes into President Trump's administration on January 20th, 2017, at 12:19 p.m., the Washington Post headline read, "Campaign to impeach President Trump has begun." So they couldn't even wait 20 minutes into his new administration. So this is an obsession. They're not going to prevail because there are strong arguments, very strong arguments for the president. There's the constitutional argument, the idea that, how can you remove a president from office who's already left? So the constitutional argument is strong. The fact that even Chief Justice John Roberts is not going to preside over the entire trial because President Trump has already left office. There's the due process argument. There was no subpoenas, no depositions, no witnesses, no hearings, no cross-examination. The last impeachment, even though they did it in the bunker in the basement of the Capitol, at least we had depositions and witnesses and hearings for that process. This was, as Matt Gaetz has said, was impeachment by reflex. It was 2 hours, all of 2 hours debate in the United States House of Representatives. And then finally, the facts aren't on their side. How do you incite a riot that had been, already planned, that was planned the day before? How do you incite a riot when the president said peacefully and patriotically go to the Capitol and make your voices heard? So the facts aren't on their side, the Constitution's not on their side, and there's been no due process for the president of the United States.
Well, with people on both sides of the aisle admitting he will be acquitted, they essentially are saying we're going to do this next week anyway. So we're going to watch and we'll see. I want to talk about some of the ongoing conversation about what's going on internally for the Republican Party tonight. The House Minority Leader, Kevin McCarthy, we're told was meeting with Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has attracted a lot of attention for previous postings and things that she said. We also know that there are going to be discussions with Congresswoman Liz Cheney, who's one of the top-ranking Republicans, and her decision to vote for impeachment against the president. Politico Playbook today saying this, the headline over Cheney and Greene face their reckoning says, imagine if the GOP strips Cheney of her leadership post and doesn't touch Greene. Democrats would have a field day and Republicans would be tagged as the party of QAnon for the long haul. So how do you guys handle this?
No, I totally disagree. And the difference is no one's asking Secretary Cheney Liz Cheney to step off of her committees. No one's asking for her to step down from the committee she's serving on. I just have said this several weeks ago. I think there needs to be a vote. When you're the conference chair and you're the person who speaks for the conference and you take a position that 96% of the conference, that 96% of the conference disagreed with, and you do that ahead of time. She didn't just go vote her conscience on the day of the vote. She spoke ahead of time, 36 hours, put out a statement in the sharpest possible terms. When you do that, I think that's a concern. A number of our colleagues in the Republican conference have concern about that. So that, I think, will be the debate there as regards our conference chair.
So we hear that there is a move in the House to put together a resolution that would strip Congresswoman Taylor Greene from her committees that she currently serves on. They say if Republicans won't do it, we will do it. Now, I understand there are Republicans who are putting together an amendment to that resolution that would say, OK, but what about your members like Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who has been accused of anti-Semitic statements, those kinds of things? Is this just a tit for tat? Where does this go? And is it the best use of the American people's time?
Look, I don't think Ms. Greene should lose her committee assignments. I mean, that's never happened where the other party decides what our party or we decide what their party can have on committee assignments. That just never happened in the House. So I certainly don't think that's appropriate. I don't think she should lose her committee assignments. We'll see what happens. But I think the American people are tired of the double standard. Look, go back to the tragic and terrible things that happened on January 6th. Republicans condemn all political violence all the time. We condemn the terrible things that happened on January 6th and the loss of life, Mr. Sicknick and his family, who we all are thinking about and praying for this evening. We condemn all of that violence that took place on the 6th, but we also condemned everything that happened last summer. But you have Democrat members of Congress who said last summer, we need more unrest in the streets, Shannon, while there was unrest in the streets. If that's not incitement, I don't know what is. We didn't say that individual should be kicked off of their committees. So, look, that's between the member and the people they get the privilege of representing in their district. That's a question for them. And if the folks in their district think that that's not appropriate, they're going to vote them out of office here in 21 months when we have our next election. That's the appropriate way to handle it. When you start having the swamp decide who get to serve where and not the people across this country in the respective districts, that's a dangerous road to head down and a dangerous precedent to set. But that's where the Democrats are thinking about going, and it will not be healthy for the institution. More importantly, it won't be healthy for the country.
Well, we await a readout from the McCarthy-Greene meeting and the Republican meetings you'll have with respect to Congresswoman Cheney tomorrow as well. Thank you, Jim Jordan. Always good to see you, Congressman.